speaking of Reagan, who worked with me in the Reagan administration too many years ago to recount. Dinesh D'Souza, his new book, Stealing America, What My Experience with Criminal Gangs Taught Me About Obama, Hillary, and the Democratic Party. #1 New York Times bestselling author, filmmaker, of course, Obama 2016, America, and he's working on his next film. And he decided to stop by and chit-chat with us about his new book and just the state of the world. He joins us now. Dinesh, great to talk to you.
Laura, great to be on the show.
So we got to talk about a lot of things. Talk about your book. We got to talk about Trump. We got to talk about what's happening at Dartmouth, our old alma mater, as things have gotten completely off the rails there at college campuses. But let's first talk about this Trump phenomenon. He had 12,000 people in Worcester, Mass. My brother Jimmy went to WPI, so I know Worcester well. So he goes to Worcester. He blows the doors off the place. What is it? What is it about him that seems to rally so many people and get all these people excited?
Laura, I think Trump is in some ways the most electrifying figure on the Republican side since Reagan. Reagan had that ability, we both saw it, where he could walk into a ballroom and 500 heads automatically turned. There was automatically a kind of raising of the temperature. Your heart beats a little bit faster. You knew things were interesting, whatever you thought about Reagan. And I think with Trump, the same thing. We haven't seen in quite a while on the Republican side of the aisle. Now, Obama had it in 2008. That sense of electricity in the room. And so we have it with Trump. We have a bona fide celebrity figure who attracts at least the interest and attention, maybe eventually the support of all kinds of people who normally would not consider the Republican Party.
We just had David Brooks on last hour who, I'm just glad he comes on the show because obviously he and I disagree on probably most issues. And he said to me, I asked him, if it's down to Hillary and Trump, would you vote for Hillary? And he said, well, I don't like talking about who I'm voting for, but he basically said I'll be writing a lot of bad articles about Trump. And I think it's clear that there are all these Republicans out there, people call themselves Republicans or conservatives even, who hate populism and nationalism so much, and they love the status quo so much, Dinesh, that they are going to vote for Hillary. And they are going to make it exceedingly ugly for the populists out there, more Reagan populists.
Well, you remember that when we were at Dartmouth together, that there were all kinds of people on the left, and culturally we seemed more similar to them because we dressed the same way, we went to the same classes, we ate in the same restaurants, and yet we were divided by them by a chasm. And in fact, we realized that we have far more in common with some other guy who might never be at Dartmouth, but nevertheless shared our values, loved America, believed in the market system and the ladder of opportunity, was traditionalist in their views. And so I think what you're putting your finger on something really important. There's a whole conservative intelligentsia that's deeply uncomfortable with other conservatives. And they actually feel more comfortable in the kind of metrosexual world of D.C. or New York, hanging out with people who are ideologically on the other side.
He also said that conservatism was about balancing different interests. Is that what you think of as conservatism?
This is David. You're talking about David now?
Brooks, yeah.
Yeah, no, David, David views himself, I think, as a kind of, the great conservative virtue he thinks is prudence. And the conservative is essentially an emotional moderate. The conservative is trying to conserve or hold on to certain elements of an old way of life and preserve them in a new world. This is a very accommodationist and I think timid, ultimately capitulationist conservatism. It's quite happy being in the minority. A long time ago, Whittaker Chambers talked about the conservative who is kind of a custodian of an old antique shop, and people come in, but it's really dark and everything is super unappealing. But it doesn't really matter because the conservative doesn't really want to sell anything. And that reminds me of David Brooks in that antique shop.
Well, I just keep thinking he says that conservatism is about balance. Like, what does Obama want to balance? What does the Chamber of Commerce really want balance? And what if we never push back? Where is that balance? If Republicans never resist Obama, and that just dovetails into your book, Stealing America, If the Republicans don't resist the hostility toward regular working Americans, which Obama clearly has, it was on display in the Philippines a couple days ago. If they don't resist him, then there will be no balance. There will just be leftism and progressivism.
Lord, there's a mythical idea, an old idea of American politics. It wasn't mythical 50 years ago, but it's mythical today, that we all agree on goals. We all want a better, safer, more prosperous, decent, orderly America, but we only debate with the liberals the means to get there. Now, that might have described the argument in Harry Truman's day or in some earlier time, but it doesn't describe Hillary. It doesn't describe Obama. We have this aggressive Democratic Party, this powerful progressive movement that is looking to confiscate the wealth of America. By stealing America, what I mean is they want to put their own hands on the levers of control of all the wealth of America. Not just the wealth of the government, the wealth of the whole country.
And Dinesh D'Souza, we're talking to him about his new book, Stealing America, just released, What My Experience with Criminal Gangs Taught Me About Obama, Hillary, and the Democratic Party. What criminal gangs, pray tell, have you had experience with?
Well, Laura, the funny thing was when I got my sentence for this campaign finance violation, the Obama administration, as you know, wanted to stick me into federal prison. Right. And I thought I was kind of jubilant that I'd beaten the prison thing and got this 8 months of confinement in a confinement center. But ironically, when I showed up at the confinement center, the first thing that the guard behind the door said to me is, he goes, "You'd be better off being in prison." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you're talking about white-collar prison. You'd be running into dentists and mayors and doctors who defrauded Medicare." He goes, "In here, it's a whole different class of people. It's the whole gamut of criminals." And sure enough, over the period of 8 months, I encountered about 200 or 300, drug smugglers, coyotes, rapists, former, murderers. I mean, they're essentially the full range of people who had served their sentence and were transitioning their way back to society.
So how many of these were illegal immigrants in the confinement center?
It's
a lot.
I have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Quite a few, I think, would be. The majority of them were Hispanic, I would say. Ironically, the Hispanic gangs I found in the Laura, I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was just saying, you're making the point. I said hello as a rhetorical, I agree with you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I thought you couldn't hear me. No, the Hispanic gangs are divided between what they call the Southsiders, which is the American Hispanics, and the actual Mexicans, who are in different groups and different gangs. So a very elaborate social system, Laura, among the criminal underclass.
You talked about this, one of the staff at the confinement center on page 181 was a big guy from Texas named Felipe. And he was working a late shift, and he was watching the Kelly File, and then he did a double take. "Is that D'Souza? Holy blank, it is." The next day, the guy came up to me and said, "I watched your videos online for about 6 hours last night." The guy had seen my political debates, my debates with leading atheists. He had watched TV interviews, read excerpts from my books. He even knew all about my troubles with the law. His verdict? "You rock, man." That is hilarious.
Well,
he's like,
I had told Megan.
I'm crying.
Well,
that's so funny.
the funny, yeah, no, and it's actually wonderful. I mean, it was actually remarkable to see. In fact, even when I was talking to inmates in the prison, I would tell them what I did, and they couldn't believe my sentence. One guy had actually got all these charges from domestic violence on down, and he had gotten 2 years of probation. So when he found out I had 5 years of probation, he almost fell off his chair.
So people who have violently attacked women are doing more time than are doing less time, than a guy who is like $20,000 contribution to a friend. That's just crazy. It's crazy. It's craziness. But we don't want to go relitigate that because that takes us into a different direction. We're going to take a break. Dinesh is going to stay with us. His book, Stealing America, is our featured selection. It's on our Facebook page where you can also see the Trump calling out this scruffy, scraggly, fat boy protester that made his way out of the Worcester rally. It was hilarious. You've got to watch the video from my friend's son who took it for me. Really funny. But you'll see Dinesh's book. What does stealing America really mean? The American memory, the American tradition, the American understanding, American values, our wealth for sure, but a lot more than our wealth. At Princeton University, they want to take down the Woodrow Wilson statue and any Woodrow Wilson reference from Princeton University. We're going to get into that later on in the show. A lot more coming up. Thanks for listening to this podcast excerpt of The Laura Ingraham Show. If you'd like to receive podcasts of our complete shows, go to lauraingraham.com and sign up to become a member of Laura 365. Our Laura 365 members get commercial-free streams and podcasts of our shows every day we're on the air. And also, you can listen to the last 30 days of The Laura Ingraham Show. Be ahead of the curve. Join Laura 365.